So we start 2 o'clock, alhamdulillah. So far been bang on. Yeah, don't get like Nazar or something. Next week, last week, inshallah. So, inshallah. Start. Alright, so let's start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, so continuing with Surah Mulk. Okay, well, just if anyone can just mention some of the points we mentioned last week. Anyone mention anything we covered last week?
Talked about the stars.
Stars, okay, yeah. The stars, good. So we mentioned about the masabih. Okay. Anything else? Any other sisters, anything you remember from last week? So we mentioned about Jahannam. Yeah. We talked about Jahannam being given a description like a beast. Yeah. So, and we also mentioned about the question that they were asked, and that's what we finished on. Yeah. Didn't a warner come to you? Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thabbit Allahu alladhina amanu. Okay, so was it verse 9 now? Yeah. Okay, قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. So here, so what happens now is when Allah mentions about these people and they were the way that they were, like we said, thrown into Jahannam, and then they hear these sounds and they hear Jahannam screaming, and then the khazana of Jahannam, who are the you can say the guards of Jahannam, they asked them this question: didn't a warner come to you? قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير. They replied, Bala. Bala in Arabic is used for when you're responding or you're answering someone in the opposite. So for example, like in Arabic, if you say to me, did you go to the shop? And I did go to the shop, I would say, Na'am. Okay, Na'am means yes. But if you said to me in the negative, didn't you go to the shop? Didn't you go to the shop? Right? Did you not go to the shop? Now, if I say Na'am, then what that means is, no, I didn't go to the shop. Does that make sense? But if you want to kind of reverse that, you say the word Bala. Okay, so Bala actually means that, yes, I did go. No, you're wrong, I did go. Right? So this is Bala. In other words, their question was, didn't a messenger come to you? Didn't a warner come to you? قالوا Bala. Bala, yes. A warner did come to us. قد جاءنا نذير. So, قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير. They responded. Now see their response, it seems like a very rushed response. Right? Now, a person would only rush a response if they're scared of the person asking the question. So for example, like sometimes a person's pulled over by the police and maybe they're scared, they knew they were speeding, and despite that, the police stopped them and they come to them and said, didn't you know that this is a 30-mile zone? Right? And the person quickly says, yeah, I'm so sorry, yeah, I did know, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so they quickly respond in that way. So this quick response that you have, this like a rushing response, this is what Allah is capturing here. By using the word qad, bala qad ja'ana nadhir, like you wouldn't have to say that. Yeah? So when you're stopped by the police and you know you've gone over the limit and the police say to you, did you go over the limit? You don't just say yes, you kind of add extra words in there as well to show you're guilty. Yeah? So you say to the police, oh yeah, I definitely know, I saw the sign there, you know what, it's my mistake, I'm so sorry. Yeah? So you kind of add extra words in, and these extra words, they hint towards your guilt of you being responsible for this. So قالوا بلى قد. So Allah has captured this. قد جاءنا نذير. A messenger a warner has come to us. Bala. Yes, yes, of course. So from this we can understand now their kind of psychological sort of profile of them now, which is they definitely know that they're in the wrong. And they're kind of starting to remember in the dunya, the life that they were going through was a life of crime. It was against some sort of laws that were there. It was against the laws of Allah, obedience to Allah. So they clearly know this, and they recognize the person that came to them in the world was a warner. Now in the Quran, I asked you last week, if you remember, to find different words for warners. Did anyone manage to find anything? What warners are used for? Any luck? No? Okay, so in the Quran, warners come for several things. Nadhir, it basically is a very interesting word. It doesn't mean just to warn. It's actually what we call like the grandfather warning. Like grandparents warning. Yeah. So for example, like let's say, your grandma, your grandparents are taking care of you, and you've done something really wrong. You've broken something in the house, and your parents are going to come to pick you up, and then your grandparents say to you, you know what, you're getting in trouble. Okay, do like this, do like this. Yeah. So that kind of warning with love, with affection, with concern, with care, that's called in Arabic a nadhir. So a nadhir is not just a warner, like an alarm going off. That's a warner. That warns people, but it has no emotions. There's no kind of concern. There's no sort of affection attached to it. But a nadhir is someone who has affection and has concern. So if someone who has concern for you, who has love for you, and they warn you, right? This is actually considered to be more, you can say, emphatic than just saying, didn't a messenger come to you? So see, over here, they knew that the person that came to them had concern for them. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ is known as the Bashir and the Nadhir. He's known as the Nadhir because when he would warn his people, when he used to warn, that warning was not just telling people, right guys, you're all going to Jahannam, get ready for it, if you don't stop what you're doing. It wasn't like that. It was actually systematically, you can imagine the Prophet ﷺ had laid out a way of giving da'wah. How is he going to approach them? How is he going to say it to them? He thought about it. Maybe the night before he would think about how am I going to go to Abu Jahl and explain things to him. So a warner has to have a plan, because he doesn't just haphazardly, randomly just come and say to people, you're going to Jahannam. Does that make sense? So the Prophet ﷺ, he was a nadhir. It's emphasized in the Quran a lot. Yeah, nadhir bashiran wa nadhiran. And so it requires his love. So he had love for his community, he had love for his people, and so his warning would have been a warning that was not like a very harsh, not a harsh sort of reprimanding of the audience. It wasn't like kind of really telling them off. It was there with love. So they recognize this. The other word warning in the Quran, nadhir, is used also for, like some of the Mufassirin mention, like anything that warns you you're doing wrong. Yeah, anything that warns you that you're doing wrong. In Arabic you call it a nadhir. So they even say like white hair in your beard is called a nadhir. The Arabs would call it a nadhir. Ja'ahu nadhir. Nadhir came to him, meaning old age has come to him. Because white hair is that one thing that will tell you that you've become old now. Right? So you might see wrinkles on your face, you might see, your eyes are a bit droopy, you might see other parts of your body, but your white hair is like instantaneous, overnight. You look and you'll think to yourself, oh, where did this white hair come from? So in the Quran, the Arabs would use the word nadhir for white hair as well. So some places in the Quran, the Mufassirin have said that when Allah would say to the people in the Quran that the nadhir came to them, it referred to old age. Now why old age? Because old age is considered to be generally a sign for people to stop doing bad. Because once you reach old age, you think to yourself, you know what, I should stop doing this now. Yeah, it's wrong what I'm doing. So even non-Muslims as well, they recognize this. When you see any human society, when they reach a certain age, they stop doing all the kind of criminal activity that they used to do when they were young. Right? So, even people who are involved in drugs, even people who are involved in stealing, they want to settle down, they want to, live the rest of their life. So nadhir is used for that as well. قالوا بلى قد جاءنا النذير فكذبنا. So what did we do? So you see again, remember the police stopping a person, and then the person Not just saying yes, and nadhir came to us. Yes, he's added bala, he's added qad ja'ana nadhir, and nadhir definitely 100% came to us. We're not denying that. And number 3, kadhabna, they're even saying the crime they committed. Yeah, we kadhabna. Kadhaba means to call them liars. We even call them liars. And this is a cyclic, this is what we call in the Quran, a cyclic historic pattern. So history, like we say, repeats itself. So there's there's a book called Habits and Change, right? Habits and Change by Arnold something, I can't remember his name. Right? It's a book, small book you can get. So he talks about how history has changed over the years. He's talked about it from a secular perspective of how humans from the beginning have changed their societies and their ideas and beliefs and religiosity and then nationalism and all that. But in there he mentions something which is interesting, and that is the issue of the cyclic sort of change, patterns in history. And in the Quran you find these patterns as well, because Allah keeps on saying, didn't you see what happened to the people of Nuh? Didn't you see what happened to the people of Ibrahim? Didn't you see what happened to the people of Musa? Didn't you see what happened? It's like they fall into a same pattern, like a hamster, right, who runs in the wheel. They follow the same steps. And this is you can say like one of the aspects of taqdeer, one of the aspects of the divine decree that Allah has decreed and measured everything, is that in life humans are restricted to the number of thoughts they can ever have. Humans are restricted to the number of actions they can ever do. The number of crimes a person can commit in life is limited. Might be in the millions, but it's limited how much you can do. The number of good things is limited how much you can do in life as well. So therefore, it's like a program in a sense, that if this program follows this particular route, then you can predict how it's going to end up. You see a person starts selling drugs. You can predict, these psychoanalysts, they work out, they predict what kind of a drug dealer this guy is going to end up being. Like, what's his outcome going to be? Most likely he's going to prison. He's going to be in and out of prison for many years. Children are not going to be brought up very well. He probably might even, have health problems in his 40s. So they work these kind of things out. So again, you see this in the Quran. In other words, every time a prophet came, the prophet would come and he would try to convey the message in the best way possible. And when he would try to convey the message in the best way possible, what would happen is you'd get this like 2 responses. You'd get those people who would generally accept it, either immediately or after some time. And then you'd get those people who would from day one, who would just be totally against it, for whatever reason, right? And these were the people, the stubborn people, who didn't want to accept this. Yeah, maybe it was some sort of other ulterior motive that they had, Allah knows. But their response is always the same, كَذَّبْنَا. We confess, we admit. You're saying to the police officer, you know what, I totally knew this was a 30-mile speed limit. And you know what I deliberately went over it, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so you confess. So كَذَّبْنَا, this is what we done. So it means this Allah is showing us, the Prophet ﷺ, that look, in the world, when you're giving da'wah to the people, many of these people know that they're doing wrong, but they deliberately are going against you. Don't take it personally. That there are people out there who will deliberately want to challenge you, not because you're wrong, not because they believe you're wrong, but rather they want to prove you're wrong. And this is another problem many humans have, which is they have a theorized mindset. So what they do is before they actually go into anything, they already know what they're going to say. It's like people who write essays and write assignments or research paper. If you have a understood thing that you're going to write, then that's going to affect your research. Your research is going to be biased, right? And this is what they were doing. So كذبنا, they said كذبنا. وقلنا ما نزل, and they're even confessing extra things as well. Let me tell you some more things that we used to do as well. وقلنا, and we used to say ما نزل الله من شيء. And in the world we used to say to people, Allah has not sent down anything at all. In other words, these are lies. In antum illa fi dalalin kabir. You are not except in great error. So now if you analyze in the Quran, if you analyze the speech of prophets, and you analyze the speech of the followers of prophets, and you analyze the speech of innocent people and the people who are criminals and Fir'aun and Iblis. You can actually build an image, or you can say like a mold of the different mindsets of people out there. So the different types of humans out there you'll find all of them, elements of them in the Quran. You'll find those people who are very deviant. You'll find those people who are very praiseworthy people who are hardworking, people who are lazy. You'll find all these mindsets, and the Quran has touched on these in different ways. So here is like a sentence for this. مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. Now look at this now. Let's say for example, I mean, in this society today, we can look at it as like politics, for example. You have different political groups, affiliations, right? If one politician comes out and he has a particular agenda that he wants to tell the people, and then there's another party, that party may agree with what this politician is saying. Yeah, let's say for example, like Jeremy Corbyn, for instance, he's saying things like, I'm going to abolish, university fees. I'm going to, help the poor. I'm going to raise the minimum wage. I'm going to do this. The other parties know this is exactly what the people need. Like every person wants this, and this would definitely have a positive impact on the community, without a doubt. There's no one out there who would not want their fees to be, waived. There's no one out there who doesn't want the minimum wage to rise. So what they will do is they will attack him in ways that will discredit him in the eyes of other people. So they may come out with things like, oh, this guy's just exaggerating, he's lying, he has no plan in place, right? So what you do is you come out with a technique of discrediting the other person. So this is their technique of discrediting. So first of all, the first thing, what did they say? كَذَّبْنَا. Number one, we call them liars. You call Jeremy Corbyn a liar. It's like, it's like a social media post. Someone writes a social media post, and then right at the bottom in the comments, just write in the comments, this is a big fat lie, exclamation mark. Everyone who reads all of that, just that one comment, will discredit everything for many people. They won't even listen to it, because they'll scroll down, look at the comment and say, if someone has said this is a lie, there might be some truth in there. Does that make sense? So this is technically what happens. So first of all, you call them liars. So it's like the Quran is teaching us how to discredit other people. Yeah, it's giving us an insight into the minds of these criminals. They will first come to discredit you. Allah is saying to the Prophet ﷺ, this is what they'll do. كَذَّبْنَا. Number two, they will even claim that nothing has come from God, as though they have full knowledge of anything that comes from God. It goes through them first. Yeah? And this is another human trait as well, that this politician has said this. So what you do is you go, well, look, we've already researched all of this anyway. We researched poverty, and we've researched student fees, and we've researched all this. None of this will happen. 100% we don't know this will happen. So what they do next is they put themselves into authority. They give themselves authoritative figures, positions. مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. As though anything that is going to come from Allah has to go through them first. So you take them seriously. And it's similar to like what many scientists today will try and present themselves as. So a scientist will talk about the Quran, a scientist will talk about Islam, a scientist will talk about something, and they'll present it in such a way that they are the authorities, even though a scientist is simply someone who observes things. That's all he does. He has no right to talk about philosophical issues. But what he will do when someone asks him an issue on Islam, he will say, oh, the Quran is made up. It was written by a man in the 7th century, and he was a very, very, very nice person, and he wrote this book, and he was a very charismatic figure. And they'll come out with this kind of thing, as though they know exactly how things work in the world. And if it was true, it should have gone through them first, and they would have authorized it. Yeah. مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And finally, number 3, إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ. So now you see, those who know the Arabic language would know that here what's happened is that the wording has slightly changed. So first of all, the audience was one person, yeah, Nadhir, and they said, كَذَّبْنَا قُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. It was like one person, you're talking to one Nadhir, one warner, one messenger. And then all of a sudden at the end, you say antum. So those who know Arabic, antum comes for? Yeah, plural. So it's as though, first of all, what they do is they attack the head of the organization. And then what they do, they attack all the figures of the organization. They give a brush ruling on everyone. In antum, all of you are in big loss. Dalal. You guys are really lost. It's like saying this to someone, your leader, your messenger, he was messed up. Na'udhu billah. And you know, all of you guys are just messed up people, you are. That's what dalal kabir actually means. Kabir means like something that goes so big, the biggest it can ever become. So the biggest a human can ever become, you'd say this person has become kabir. He can't get any more bigger. And a tree, the biggest the tree can grow, you'd say the tree is kabir. So dalal is deviance. Like you guys have deviated so much from the truth. You've reached like the limits of deviance. Right, you've got right to the end of deviance, you guys have. So you see what's happened now? Now all of a sudden, when the Khazana of Jahannam asked them, didn't a warner came to you? That's all he said. Didn't a warner come to you? And what was the response? Four things, or 5 things rather. Bala, قد جاء النذير, كذبنا, قلنا ما نزل الله من شيء, إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. So you see that? So this, Allah wants to show the Prophet ﷺ is that this, in the dunya, this is how they're approaching your religion. This is how they're trying to dissuade people from, joining your ranks. This is what they're doing, right? So you all have to understand is that it's not that you're wrong. It's not that you're wrong. It's in reality the other way. It's that they're wrong. Some of the Mufassirin have actually said this. Does everyone understand this, or am I going too fast? Or yeah, you with me? All right. Sometimes my tongue carries on, and then I realize afterwards. Yeah.
Can you just come to the 5 points again? Those 5
Yeah. So these 5 points here. So these are 5 points for like the way they respond, right? So what's that? So imagine like a police officer. Police officer stops you in the car and says to you, "Didn't you know that this is a 30-mile zone?" What would logically, if you're thinking now retrospectively, what should you have just said? Oh, was it? Yeah, something like that, wouldn't it? But if you feel guilty inside, if you feel really guilty and you think that he's caught on, he's got recording of it, then what do you say? Yeah, I'm so sorry, I 100% use it. I normally come past here, it's 30 miles, and I deliberately went over, I don't know what happened to me. Yeah, you come out with all of this kind of, trying to clear yourself. So this is what they do. So the first thing they say is, of course, a warner did come to us. Yeah, a warner did come. Okay, that's the answer they needed. And then, not just that, but we also in the dunya, we also call them liars, by the way. In other words, we resulted in many people not accepting their message, not just us. But by publicly saying that they're liars, what happens is there's going to be other people who are going to listen to us. So we call them liars. Number 3 is we even went further and we said if God was going to send something, He would have passed it through us. So we 100% know God has not sent an ounce, a shred of divine message, to anyone, right? And number 4 is كذبنا. So that's 2. So this is 4th. Number 5. In antum illa fi dalalim kabir. You people are really messed up. You sort yourselves out. Go and rehabilitate yourselves. Yeah, de-radicalize yourselves. That's what they say, isn't it? If you think about it, that's exactly the approach they take. It's like we don't have any issue with you following Islam. Yeah, no problem with Islam, but it's just Islam is made up. Yeah, it's made up. You guys are liars. Your religion is full of lies anyway. If we analyze your religion, it's full of lies. God hasn't sent anything to the earth. All our scientists can prove that to you tomorrow. And you guys are just simply totally lost. Yeah, that's all you guys are. You're just one of those lost religions. So the yes, the first one, the yes, that was the first one. Yeah. Does that make sense? Now you see, I remember, those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, yeah, what I would suggest is study Surah Yasin. I taught Surah Yasin here before. I think it was last year or the year before. And the conversation that the messengers have with the people, it's a whole page. Yeah, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابُ الْقَرْيَةِ. From there. That's a very interesting conversation that Allah shows. Because it shows you the psyche of people who are extreme far rights. The far right extremism. It shows you that perfectly, and you can fit it onto in this world today, how it works, and what you're going to expect the next stages. So just like in this country, when the far right first started, what was it called? Many in the 90s, NFs, yeah, National Fronts. People could have seen exactly where it's going to lead to. It's a natural. In 10 years' time, the far right will be very different from what it is today. Maybe even worse, more extreme. Yeah, because it follows a certain, protocol. So like we said, cyclic patterns, we see cyclic patterns, and Allah wants to show us and primarily the Prophet ﷺ of how humans work. And this is very important to give da'wah to people. If you want to give da'wah, you need to know how human behavior is. If you don't know what human behavior is like, you just saying to people Islam is right is pointless, because most people are not going to listen to you. Okay. Now, some of the Mufassirin have actually said, "In antum illa fi dalalin kabir." This is actually not the statement of the people. This fifth point is actually the statement of the security of Jahannam. So Jahannam security, when they ask the question, did a warner come to you? So they say 4 things. Yes, we lied. Yes, they came to us. We called them liars, and nothing was sent down from God. 4 things they said. And the Mufassirin say that this statement, the 5th statement, is actually them saying it to them. You people are really messed up, you guys are. Yeah, it's like the police officer saying to someone, you know what? You got drugs in your car as well. You're really messed up, you are. Yeah. So it's like their statement is like the cherry on top of remorse. Yeah, it's like the cherry on top of remorse. The police officer, if he said to you, "Oh, it's okay, man, don't worry, these things happen. Chalo, this time it's okay. Next time, please don't do it." Yeah. You expect him to say that, wouldn't you? But they don't even show that remorse. They just said to them, "You know what? In antum illa fi dalalin kabir." Now you see, this is an important thing. Those who are interested in studying the Quran in depth, there's the Quran's language. The Quran's language is based upon the Arabic of around the 7th century Arabic. In other words, if you want to truly understand the Quran in 4K, yeah, ultra 4K, that's what it is, isn't it? If you want to understand it in 4K, you need to understand how Arabs spoke in them days for you to understand how these sentences make sense. Does that make sense? Like nowadays, if you read, for example, on the tabloid, heading on the tabloid, something like, the Blues are going through blues. Yeah, I think once there was like a tabloid like that about a football team. Yeah, the Blues are going through blues. You'd only understand this if you know how people speak English today. You can't understand it in a different time, a different era, because those words, the kind of sarcasm that's being used there, can only be understood if you thoroughly immerse yourself in the culture of the English today. So likewise, if you want to understand the Quran like in ultra 4K, at the moment, many of us that study Arabic or even don't study Arabic through translation, you're understanding, if you're not studying Arabic, if you're not reading the Quran in Arabic, understanding through Arabic, it's like imagine there's someone who's in a different part of the world, in Italy, let's say, in a museum of fine arts, and they see a piece of art, and they're phoning you, and they're describing to you what the art looks like, right? They're describing it to you. And then imagine a person seeing it for themselves, seeing it with their own eyes, and then imagine a person who knows art inside out, knows all the history of art, and appreciates art as an art collector, and he sees that. There's definitely going to be a difference, isn't there, in how they appreciate it. So it's the same with this way. When it comes to the Quran, many of us see the Quran second hand, like you're seeing it through another person, the other person's vision. And then many people will see the Quran like in black and white, just like TVs, black and white TVs. You see it through that. You can't see all the richness. And then many of you will see it through things like, HD. And then many of you will see it through, ultra 4K. So this is what, if you really want to immerse yourself in the Quran, this is what you truly need. Yeah, to be able to appreciate these sentences. So like some of these things that I say, someone might argue and say things like, oh, maybe you're just exaggerating this just to kind of justify the sanctity of the Quran. Yeah, just like Christians do it for their book, Hindus do it for their book, other religions do it for their book. So what they will do is, because that book is holy, to prove that book is holy, they will render every sentence in there to justify its holiness. Does that make sense? Maybe let's say someone worships Moby Dick, the book Moby Dick. Someone worships that's their holy book. You'd find someone try and justify every sentence in that book to show that this book is holy. Even though the outsider was saying, "Oh, this is silly, this is written by a guy, we clearly know it's written by a guy, we even know the guy who he is." Yeah. With the Quran, people try to do this with the Quran and say the Muslims are only justifying their book. So they will try and twist an ayah and try to make it very scientific and all of that. But I can't explain this to you without you truly having a very good grasp of Arabic language and studying yourself. That's all I could say. There is no way I can prove to you or disprove to you what they're saying. The only way it can be done, because you're listening through a second person, aren't you? So you just have to accept me as an authority. Whatever I say to you, you accept it. So I would say, if you truly want to see this, then this is what you have to do. And the first time I actually heard this was from a guy. He's a famous, I think he's still alive. His name is Dr. Salih Samurai. Salih Samurai is from Iraq, but he lives in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So he says this. He says, after I graduated from university, in his qualification, whether it was engineering or something, he was on a verge of leaving Islam, because he felt that he thought that the Muslims are just over embellishing their book. And he says, I felt that Muslims were trying to prove that their book is true through even things that were weak. And clearly they were weak, like cutting the fruit, it's got the word Allah in there, that must mean Islam's true. It was like one of those ones. He thought that's what it was, because he didn't have a really good deep exposure of the Quran. He says, it was only when I said I'm going to prove that the Muslims are wrong. He's got a recording of this on YouTube. He goes, I started my journey and I started studying Arabic grammar in depth. And I covered all the major books. And then I studied the major literature of Arabic. He goes, eventually I realized it is impossible for a human to write this book. And this is a doctor, who is now considered one of the world's leading experts in Arabic grammar and balagha, Dr. Salih Samurai. He said this. He goes, the only way you can understand this is if you immerse yourself in the Arabic language of that time and you read what the Quran says. And he goes, you will understand that this Quran itself, it's a manifestation of Allah's words. It's self-evident of itself. You don't need anything extra to prove it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So, and this is the point I was trying to go to, but see what happened. Yeah, I went off track. Yeah, this is what happens. But see, these are things that are dear to my heart, because I love Arabic literature, especially Arabic literature which is in the 7th century Arabic literature. Pre-7th century, post-7th century Arabic literature. I study a lot of that myself. I do a lot of studying and I teach people it as well. So when I study that and I can see the patterns of how Arabs spoke and how these sentences, the Quran will come out with like a genre, a way of saying something that will not only match something that was said by someone who was very proficient in his Arabic in them days, but it will always surpass it as well. It's like, imagine like this, imagine there's an amazing song, right? Amazing rap or whatever song, yeah? I'm not like, obviously, promoting songs or anything. I'm saying, imagine there was an amazing song that everyone has said this is the most amazing song, the lyrics are amazing, the tone's amazing, and it's been top of the charts, for so many months. And then imagine another person comes, matches that song, and even surpasses it, beats it, yeah? I know people just love that. So this is, in the time of the Arabs, you could imagine it's very similar to this. When the Arabs would see any literature, first and foremostly they would try to, what's the word? Dissect it. That's what they would try. They would try to criticize it, they would try to find faults in it, they would try to find mistakes in it. If they've copied anyone from before, they try to find all of this, and this would discredit the text. And they've done it so many times, we've got like lots and lots of records of this, that people came out with a poem or Arabic literature, and then there were experts there who dissected it, and they said, he's got this from here, he's got this from here, he's got this from here. This is all plagiarized. But when the Quran came, they couldn't do it. And not only that, each surah, each chapter of the Quran, 114 chapters, everyone has its own unique genre. That was something that was very difficult for Arabs to achieve. Like, you could get one guy who's written an amazing song like you get nowadays. You get a famous singer who's come out with an amazing song, but it's only a one-off. All the other songs are all a waste of time. Yeah? That happens very common, isn't it? Very rarely will you get like someone who's a musician who's able to replicate and come out with a new, like, original song that no one else has come out with. Very rare will you get that kind of person. So, anyway, enough with songs, bye. قالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعيد. Now listen to what they're saying. This is like Allah is showing us, this is what human beings need to hear now. This is what all of us need to hear. What translation did you get for this? Verse number 10.
And they shall say, how we first listened, pondered, or pondered. We should not have been among the inmates of the burning fire.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
And they will say, only we have been listening or reasoning, We will not be among the companions of the dead.
Okay, now a question I want to ask you guys, yeah? Yeah, sisters, have you got the translation for this? No? Okay, question I want to ask you is, why are they saying this here for? Like the police stops you, okay, you confess everything, you even confess the drugs you got in the car, yeah? Why mention this though? لو قالوا, they said, لو كنا نسمع, if only we heard, we listened. نسمع means listened. If only we listened, or heard, or نعقل, or understood, thought about, pondered, we wouldn't have been amongst the inmates of Jahannam. We wouldn't have been in this prison.
Are they trying not to take responsibility for it?
They're feeling sorry for
Not, I don't understand what you're saying. Not fully. To a degree, yes. Maybe they're trying to use this as a way of getting out. Trying to kind of, trying to make them empathize with them. Okay. Not necessarily. Something else. Regrets. Something else. Like, why specifically these two things? Was it all of a sudden they've become intelligent now and realized, yeah, what the core of the problem was?
They need they should do that right thing. They need
You're warm, you're getting warmer. You see, look, criminals, every criminal that commits a crime, he knows what he's done wrong. That's the thing. Every criminal that goes to prison and rehabilitates themselves. Have you seen these guys that come on TV when they've kind of been ex-gang members or ex-drug dealers or ex-human traffickers?
I wouldn't agree with that one. I mean, what about a person who commits a crime that they did not know exists?
No, so we're talking about this particular scenario.
Obscure legislation.
Yeah, so we're talking about this kind of crime that they confessed. Like they already confessed, haven't they? They mentioned the 5 things. See, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about criminals who were on this, who knew 100%. Yeah, so what happens? What did they say? لو كنا نسمع. If only, we used to listen. If only we heard. Yes, if they were criminals, for example, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they didn't truly understand the law. They came from a different country, maybe. That's something understandable. But here we're talking about criminals who are, self-confessing criminals. They've actually confessed to the police, the authorities, everything they've done. And on top of that, they're even telling the authorities the root of the problem. The root of the problem was we never used to listen, and we never used to understand. In other words, there's 2 ways in society that something is wrong. Number 1 is you either have to have heard it, right? So hearing, like for example, if a law is passed, you hear it, isn't it? If a messenger comes, they come with a message and the message is heard. The Quran originally was a verbal transmission, oral transmission. So it was heard rather than read. People wouldn't read the Quran like from a text. They would hear it because that was the style of it. So you hear something is wrong, whether it makes sense to you or not. Like for example, maybe some new law comes out, for instance. Let's say the government says, right, you're not allowed to drive in your car with a cup in your hand, right? And you say, well, look, I can. I'm really good at it. I've gained a skill, a talent, where I can actually drive without any hands, just my legs, right? So someone can possibly say that. So to them, it doesn't make sense why the law is saying to them. So some of the things in Islam that we're told, or even in law general, is something that we accept. Yeah, like for example, we pray 5 times a day. We don't know why it's 5, why it's not 6, why it's not 4, why 7 times around the Kaaba. We don't know. We just go in the Kaaba. Why go around the Kaaba? What's the reason for going around the Kaaba? Okay, there's many things in Islam we do know. Most things in Islam we know how they work. Like for example, washing yourself. It makes sense to wash yourself before prayer. Okay, that makes sense. Not eating in Ramadan and not drinking and not doing these things. It makes sense. Control your diet, and if you control your diet, you control your mind as well. And it's a kind of detox. So a lot of these things do make sense. But there's some things that we just accept. Majority of people, I would say, Muslims in the world, they follow Islam at this level, of the listening level. They follow it because they don't think about it. They just follow it. They've grown up, they've been taught these things about Islam, and alhamdulillah, and it's good, it's fine. People who follow the law just by listening that this is what the law is, and they don't even ponder over the law, that's fine. They are keeping the harmony in society, which is a good thing. But then you have another level of people who want to think about things. So, na'qilu aql, it means to think. Yeah, to use your common sense. Aql literally means common sense, like we say. So the common sense would mean anything that humans can use who is incapacity, any human that's incapacity that can use their mind, you say this guy has common sense. Yeah, intelligence is different. Intelligence in Arabic is described as how quick you can see patterns. So how quick can you see a link between two things? They say Sur'atul Idrak. This is intelligence. Some people will obviously be faster in this, quicker in this. They'll be more intelligent. But aql, everyone has aql. Everyone knows common sense, right? Common sense is, you don't put a cup of water right on the edge of a table. Just common sense tells you that. You don't need anyone to explain to you why. So he says, لو كنا نسمع, if only we either did one or two things, either we just heard and obeyed, أو نعقل, or we further pondered, ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. So they're summarizing what they're boiling down the issue down to the two issues, which was that generally Muslims, they follow this, either they listen and they just obey, or you'd have other Muslims who will not only listen but they also think about things. And also some of the Mufassirin have also mentioned this, that this is also talking about just natural human disposition. Natural human disposition is, even if you didn't hear a messenger come to you and tell you these things are wrong, just thinking about it would tell you these things are wrong. So for example, like drinking alcohol. Many people in the world know drinking alcohol is wrong for you. On a health level it's wrong for you, on a mental level it's wrong for you, on a social level it's wrong for you. They know it, studies have been done. So those studies being done is aql telling you, without intervention of divine message, aql is telling us these things are wrong. Does that make sense? So it's like they're saying that even if a message didn't come to us and we didn't hear that message and we just purely used our own intellects, many of these crimes that we committed on earth, we know they were wrong. Abusing other people, being selfish and greedy and accumulating lots of wealth and doing all these things. Does that make sense? So you see, it's very interesting when we're studying the Quran and Allah just mentions two things or three things or four things. Allah is not just mentioning those two or three things because it's like, we say, so-and-so done this and they done this, etc., etc. It's not one of those things. Allah is actually showing us where the problem lies. He's rooting it for us right where the issue is. مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Yeah, now, that's like the epitome of remorse. If you had to manifest remorse in the form of a human, how would you manifest it? A person that's crying, they're screaming. You can imagine them screaming now. When they were saying this, they would have been screaming to each other, really upset, thinking to each other, I really messed up my life, man. Why did I do this for? Why did I get into this for? Yeah? So it's like showing us, teaching us a lesson that, don't get into this. Save yourselves before you get into this. The other thing here is, sometimes when the Quran mentions all of these, you think it happened in sequence one after the other. So the security guard asked them, and then they said this, and then they said this, and then they said this, and then they came out with a long statement. In most cases, that's not the case. What the Quran does is the Quran does a time lapse. Like a trailer for a movie. The trailer for a movie, it takes the entire movie, 2-hour movie, and it will summarize for you the main parts that you might need to know if you're interested in watching this movie. The main sort of parts. And it will sequence them together. And when you watch it, you might think all of these things are happening together. But then when you watch the film, okay, this happened in the beginning, this happened in the middle, this actually happened before this happened like this. Does that make sense? So in many cases in the Quran, when the issues of Musa and Fir'aun take place, a lot of these things don't happen in one day. Many of these things would have been happening over months, right? But the Quran, it just because Allah is beyond time and space, He takes things and He brings it all together, in one place. فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ, Allah says clearly, they have confessed their sin. They've confessed their crime. Allah hasn't even said to them what you've done wrong. And this is one of the ways on the Day of Judgment that people will confess their crimes. So on the Day of Judgment, when Allah says that their hands will speak, right, and their legs will speak, and their skin will even speak against them. This is one of the ways that your body will testify against you. And in some places in the Quran, they say the book will speak against them. The book, their divine book, whatever form it's in, it's actually play back their entire life, and it's going to show them all their faults and all the good things they've done. It'll highlight it for them. فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. They themselves confess their own sin. So then Allah says, سُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. What translation did you get for this? سُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ.
So it is alienation for the companions of the blaze.
Okay.
But far would be forgiveness from the inmates of the burning.
Does that make sense to you? Doesn't make sense to me, right? Yeah, and this is the problem with English translation. You're trying to capture a statement that was said in the 7th century using English language today, where we don't say that kind of thing anymore. I'll tell you what we do say today: get lost. Statement like get lost, right? This is what we say, isn't it? Yeah, get lost. Yeah, damn you. These are kind of statements that would be the closest to this word, suhqan. Suhq literally means to be far away. So suhqan is an Arab statement. If you want to say to someone you're really angry with them, they've done something really bad and they deserve no pity from anyone, and you're saying to this person, right, get lost. You deserve no pity at all. This is the word suhqan you use for them. Yeah, you deserve to be locked up and the key thrown away. That's the kind of expression that's been used over here. Suhqan li ashabis sa'ir. Allah is saying, ashabis sa'ir, talking about this. These are the kind of inmates you're getting in sa'ir. Allah is showing you. Like, should you show them pity now? Now, if Allah is showing you what's going to be their end, Allah is showing the Prophet ﷺ that your efforts of da'wah, don't let them go to waste. Don't think to yourself that you're conveying the message to them, they're turning around and they are growing in momentum, in opposing you. And so don't feel sorry for these people. You shouldn't feel sorry for these people. These people are actually doing something which is going to cause more harm on earth than just rejecting. One is just rejecting, I don't want to accept religion, that's fine. They don't fall under this. Remember that. So it's like Jahannam has various categories in there, various different departments, different areas in there. This is like the worst department you can get, the Sa'ir. And we said, in this department you have the shayateen in there. Those evil jinn, you have them in there. So this is like, I don't know, maximum, in America they have like, you know, is it maximum security prison, the highest level. Yeah, maximum security prisons. Yeah, Alcatraz they used to have before. And, you know, Mandela, where was he locked up in? Rhode Island. Where was it? Robben Island? Robben Island. Rhode Island is America, isn't it? In Robben Island. Yeah. So you see, these are like different places. So when we look at people in the Quran in Jahannam, they're not like in one room. Jahannam is like a world. It might even be different worlds, different dimensions even. We don't even know how it works. But Allah is just showing us that these kind of people, these are like the worst, the filthiest kind of people in society. These are like the guys you can imagine today as being the worst Islamophobes, who are going around deliberately trying to harm Muslims, trying to, you know, make policy deliberately against Muslims themselves. You know, this is the kind of worst people that you can ever have in a society. Okay.
Get lost.
Yeah, so I mean, get lost. I wouldn't say get lost in a talk. Yeah, but I'm saying to you guys, this is the closest you can get to understanding what suhqan. It's like, if I was to say to someone, get lost, man, what does that tell me about my emotions? Anger. And what degree of anger from 1 to 10? Pretty high, isn't it? This is what Allah, imagine how angry Allah is with these people. You can see the emotions, the anger Allah is showing you. This is how angry Allah is with these kind of people on earth. Suhqan li ashabis sa'ir. Sa'ir is a fire, burning fire. Blazing, extremely powerful fire. Yeah. Innal ladhina. Now, you see, when you hear this, what do you feel inside? It's fear, isn't it? Naturally, you get fear. You feel inside, you know what? You think to yourself, you know what? Okay, that guy got caught by the police just going over 30 miles per hour. I don't have my seatbelt on. Yeah? So what happens? You quickly, the other day I was driving the car, in the mirror you can see the person behind you in the other car. So there was a police car there, so everyone slows down, obviously, you know, becomes human beings. And then all of a sudden, the guy in the back, he was there and his dad was there, I think. They both had beards. And he gets his seatbelt, I think I can see his lips moving, saying to his dad, go and put your seatbelt on, there's police there. Just slowly, you know, one of those. So anyway, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. So this is now, Allah is shifting the camera now. Camera view is shifting now, scene is shifting. So it's gone from all the way this, started off with the majesty of Allah, the power of Allah, how powerful and how Allah is in control of everything, and Allah deserves this. And we should acknowledge Allah's power. How do we acknowledge it? By obedience. And anyone who does not acknowledge this by being disobedient to Allah, like who? and then it gives a whole description of the people, the shayateen, and then it goes from the shayateen, it goes into the evil people of the community who are deliberately out there to discredit the messengers and the divine message. This is their outcome. Now, scene shifts now. Camera has changed. Different scenario. What is it? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُم. Now you see, when you listen to a talk, a fiery talk, like let's say Sheikh Zahir or someone gives a fiery talk here, he's giving a fiery talk and talking about people, sinners, and inside you feel really bad. And what's the next thing you need? You need motivation, right? Because the point of the talk is not to demotivate you. The whole point of the talk is motivation, isn't it? So you need to mention some scary things to make certain people's hearts tremble, and you need for other people, you need positive. So now we're going on to positive now. But you see, look, he starts off with inna alladhina, inna. What does inna come from? What did we say? So what kind of audience do you use inna with? Indeed, isn't it? Inna is indeed. What kind of an audience do you use the word indeed with? Verily, surely, wallahi.
People that need reassurance.
People need reassurance. It's as though Allah exactly has brought these verses to show that when a believer reads these verses, he will naturally feel fear of Allah, fear of the things that they've done. And then all of a sudden what will happen? That person will now need reassurance, like Allah is reassured. Don't worry. Wallahi, you're okay. Inna alladhina yakhshawna rabbahum bil ghayb. Those who have awe of Allah. Khashiyah doesn't mean fear. It means to have awe. When you've heard how powerful Allah is, how mighty He is, how scary His punishment is, how beautiful His paradise is. He's created Jupiter, He's created the solar system, He's created the universe, He's created the black hole that they discovered. How mighty He is. What happens? You're filled with awe. You just become so overawed that you just feel like, amazed about Allah. This is called khashiyah. So Allah says, those people who have khashiyah of Allah, who have this inner feeling of awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have this, consciousness of Allah. Rabbahum, their Lord. So their Lord, this is inferring towards the idea or the fact that they recognize, they acknowledge what Allah is doing for them. They've started to acknowledge the work Allah has done for me. I've been ignorant of this. Allah has given me life. Allah has allowed me to breathe. Allah allows my lungs to function. Despite my lungs could collapse at any moment. My heart, something could get stuck in one of the valves of my heart and I could have, a heart attack. Something could, happen inside my liver and my liver could fail instantaneously. So many people have died because of that. But Allah is allowing me to live. He's my Rabb. He's doing my tarbiyah. يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُم. So this word Rabb, it entails the meaning of Allah, of how Allah, He takes care of this whole universe. He nurtures every single aspect, from the smallest particle to the greatest galaxy. Allah is taking care of it. So they're starting to acknowledge this now. They're starting to see Allah in everything. Allah is not in everything, but Allah's power is in everything. How Allah functions in the universe. يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُم. So first of all, they have khashiyah of Allah. Bil ghayb. What does bil ghayb mean? Unseen, okay, yeah? So bil ghayb means unseen. However, I always tell my students this, unseen is the worst translation. What is it supposed to be?
Secret.
Secretly or hidden. Ghayb means anything beyond your five senses in Arabic. So in 7th century Arab society, when they used to use the word ghayb, it literally meant beyond your five senses. Like in my car boot. Does anyone know what's in my car boot? No, that's ghayb for you guys. But it's not ghayb for me. Does that make sense? So ghayb literally means something that's beyond the five senses. When we say unseen, we're only saying it's beyond sight, isn't it? It's unseen, right? Or it's unheard of, hearing. But when you say hidden, that makes more of a precise translation of the word ghayb. So what does this mean then? So Mufassirin have said either it means this, that this feeling of awe is not always with them. This feeling of awe of their Lord, it's like at the moment we might have the feeling of awe of Allah, but when we go home we might not have it. It's at certain times, they're like peaks and troughs. So the peak of when they're fully conscious of Allah, their Lord, who's doing everything for them. Like someone might be at peak, their wife might have given birth to a child, and at that moment they're at peak in their awe of Allah. Allah has given someone a child. They just become filled with. Or for example, someone has recovered from a coma, and they see the awe of Allah. Or they go to the ocean and they stand by the ocean, they can see the awe of Allah. Yeah, so it peaks and troughs. One of the times which is praiseworthy is when ghayb, in other words, something that you can't see, something beyond your senses, Like for example, the power of Allah in Jannah, the power of Allah on the Day of Judgment, the power of Allah in the hereafter. This is something in ghaib. If you were to see something in front of your face and you were overawed by Allah, that's fine, but that's not praiseworthy, because as a human being you would naturally become overawed by it. Yeah, if you saw a meteorite fall from the sky and hit the ground and everything exploded, you'd naturally have an awe of it. So that's not the awe of the ghaib. The awe of the ghaib is something where you think about something, ponder, and that pondering, it leads you to an awe-filling scenario. Number two meaning is this: bil ghaib actually means away from people, like at home alone, yeah, or in the masjid alone, or in Taraweeh, you're standing, no one's there, or in a situation where you're alone, secluded from everyone, and you have this feeling of Allah's awe in your heart. That's the feeling that sometimes you kind of get. That's praiseworthy, that is, because this is praiseworthy because it's far from any sort of ostentatiousness. Yeah, you're not showing off in front of anyone. There's no one to please. It's just you standing in front of Allah and you're just overawed. You feel like crying. Your eyes filled with tears. That's the kind of feeling. Bil ghaib. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is one. Lahum maghfiratun wa ajrun kareem. And these people have two rewards. What are the two rewards? Lahum maghfirah. What does maghfirah mean? Okay. Forgiveness. Yeah. We're going to come to that. Number two, ajrun kabir means. Okay, so if we take the meaning of kabir to be what we said earlier on, how would you translate it? The biggest possible reward that you can ever get. Magnificent reward. In today's times, how would we use these kind of words? Like maghfirah in today's times would be like a royal pardon. Like a royal pardon. This is like the highest form of forgiveness you can get in the country. Is the queen or the king or the president gives you a royal pardon. Yeah, so they forgive you. Any crimes you committed, you could be, sentenced to death, but they forgive you. They wipe it clean, your slate clean. This would be called maghfirah. So maghfirah is the highest form of asking forgiveness. So Allah is saying these people's slates will be cleared clean from Allah, not from any king or queen, but Allah, the King of all kings. And ajrun kabir in today's times would be something like, some sort of like highest prize, I don't know. Yeah, like for film actors, the highest prize might be Oscars. Yeah, this would be recognized as the highest. Ajrun kabir for them would be like that. And maybe, a scientist, their highest prize may be like something like, is a Nobel Peace Prize. They're the highest, nothing higher than that. And for a soldier, maybe in the army, they have, a certain, I don't know, what do they get?
Stars.
Yeah, they get certain stars or certain medals. Yeah, this is ajr kabir. So you have to recognize that ajr kabir from Allah is going to be a reward that everyone will acknowledge. So once this has been put onto you, once this has been given to you, it's like everyone will acknowledge you're a special person. So in other words, Allah is saying those people who have this quality of khashiyah of Allah, they have this consciousness of Allah, they all filled with Allah at various times in their life, peaks and troughs. These people are going to get two rewards. Now, why is Allah giving such a great reward? Forgiveness, your slate will be cleaned, and you're going to get this high reward. Why mention this for these people? And this is what we're going to finish off on. Question for you guys, why? What has this got to do with linked in with what we just talked about earlier on? About the inmates of Sa'ir? How does this contrast with that?
Because they've accepted Allah for who He is rather than reject.
Okay, but I want you to think of it in this way. I want you to think of it like a piece in a puzzle. So Allah gives you one piece and automatically your brain has to figure out all the other pieces. If someone has khashiyah of their Lord, what kind of a lifestyle are they going to have? What kind of father they're going to be? What kind of mother they're going to be? What kind of leader they're going to be? What kind of taxi driver they're going to be? What kind of shop owner they're going to be? What kind of employee are they going to be?
Obedient.
Not just obedient.
Trustworthy.
Upright people.
I want more. So obedient falls into it. Obviously, it's one of the byproducts of it. But I want you to build a picture. Someone who has this khashiyah, the seed of khashiyah, and it grows in a person's life. How does it manifest?
Do the right
Follow
thing.
every principle of Islam.
Taqwa, okay, taqwa is again byproduct of it. Taqwa can be another way of looking at it. Yeah, the way of abstaining from sin and doing good. What would you say?
Follow the principles of Islam.
Follow the principles of Islam. The same things that they said, those 5 things they said, these people of khashiyah, are they going to do any of those? No. They're not going to deny it. They're going to listen to the messenger. If a messenger comes with some truth, they listen and say, what do you have to say? If we like it, we'll accept it. If we don't like it, we'll reject it. Yeah, so they would be people who listen. They would never ever give themselves authorities or something they don't have. They would never discredit someone for no reason. Remember those people discredited? Ma anzalallahu min shay. And they would never label people as being, in great deviance. They would never label anyone as that. Does that make sense? So in other words, they wouldn't become judgmental in that sense. And this is what Allah is showing. This is how humans on earth, this is the perfect human being on earth, would be a person who has these qualities inside of him. You're never going to get this ideal person who's always going to be like this. Because they're going to make mistakes now and again. You're going to get a Muslim who might backbite now and again. You're going to get someone who might cheat now and again. You're going to get someone who misses their prayers now and again. You get someone who might miss their fast now and again. But you have these peaks and troughs. Always try to endeavor to have this khashiyah of Allah in your heart. Consciousness of Allah, what Allah has done for you, your surroundings. And see, all of this now, it fits in with the theme of Surah Mulk. Surah Mulk in the beginning, what do we talk about? Kingdom, isn't it? And whose control is it? Allah's control, isn't it? The whole surah has this underlying theme of Allah's control. If Allah has security of Jahannam, imagine how powerful Allah is. If Allah has a Jahannam that can scream, deafening scream, it has. Imagine how powerful Allah is. If Allah has this Jahannam, this ability, to be able to create the seven skies and to create stars like lanterns in space, in the universe. Imagine how powerful Allah is. And then imagine, despite His power, giving humans the ability to be able to become conscious of Him. Imagine how amazing that is. Yes, that they have the ability to become conscious of Allah and to do this and have free will as well, free choice in this sense. So these are some of the things to think about. Inshallah, next week's the last lesson. I don't think we're going to finish the surah, So always happens. We plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. So what I want you to do is, for next lesson, I want you to think how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next coming verses, it mentions about how Allah has made the earth humbled, right? Or obedient, right? And I want you to think about this and show how this facilitates human life. Like, why is this considered a blessing for humans to have this blessing of let's say the planet Earth, of having the planet Earth, which is humbled. The word actually that Allah uses, which we're going to talk about next week, is dhalul. Dhalul, it means, like a horse. When you break a horse, what breaking a horse is. So a horse is in the wild, it's very, very, very wild. That's the word. It's out of control. You can't really ride it. It's very difficult to control. So what they do is they break it. It's called breaking, and it takes a long time. And then eventually the horse, it becomes timid and tame, and you can control it. So this taming the horse or taming the earth, how does it have an impact on human life on earth, and how has it benefited them? And if they didn't have it, this earth wasn't timid and tame, how would it be difficult for humans to be able to function and live and exist even? So we'll stop there. Any questions? Jazakumullah khair. The thing is, I can go into the tafsir and just quickly whiz through the translation, but personally I don't feel that's going to be resonating with a lot of you guys. What I personally think is going to be very beneficial for the reader is to understand the layers of the Quran. Like we mentioned last week, the Quran has layers. Understanding these layers is very important to appreciate what Allah is saying. If one person goes away and has studied only one verse, but thoroughly, properly, in a way that they can go away and it can give them appreciation of Allah's words, I think that is better than a person studying the entire Quran, just translation. Because translation would just give you a superficial understanding, and at any moment, that superficial understanding could be burst. You could get lots of, questions in your mind. But when you have a deep understanding, it leaves with you pondering. So the whole week, you'll be pondering about certain things, reflecting on them. So I'll leave you with that, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair. It's the last 10 nights. So, we should all try to, make dua for each other as well in these special nights. Make dua for the ummah as well. And also, the Prophet ﷺ, he would exert himself in these 10 nights more than any nights in the entire year. Because these 10 nights are 10 nights which are like the last push we have. In these 10 nights, the Prophet ﷺ would recite the Quran to Jibreel alayhi salam, and they would go over it again and again. And the Prophet ﷺ would even stay away from his wives, even intimacy with his wives in these last 10 nights for this. So we should try our best to, as much as we can do in these last 10 nights, especially Laylatul Qadr, try to find Laylatul Qadr, and worship Allah as much as we can, and make dua as well, lots of dua. That Allah, any kind of like bad habits that we have or bad things that we're involved in, we ask Allah to cure us of those and give us some sort of way out of that as well. Jazakumullah khair, and make dua for me as well, guys. Yeah, that's a condition.
Couple of announcements.
Yeah, a couple announcements.
Just a couple of announcements. Inshallah, you are all invited on Friday, coming Friday, inshallah, to our annual iftar event. Where Sheikh Zaid Mahmoud will be delivering a lecture on My Kid and the Sword, and that will start. The program will start at 7, and inshallah will be followed by a grand iftar for everyone. That's all.